Welcome, everybody. I'm so excited. We've got a full house here tonight. How many of you have been to any of my other Empowerment Series workshops? Right on. Okay, so who can tell me some of the ground rules? Like, what do I say about if you get uncomfortable while you're sitting, or you feel like you'd really rather not be sitting but wish you were standing right now? What do you do?
Stand.
Stand, that's right, yes. So everybody takes care of themselves. Pay attention to your body, and don't worry about offending me, because I won't be offended. I'll actually probably be delighted if I see you taking care of yourself, okay? All right, great. So the name of this class is called Balancing and Releasing Mental Emotional Stress. And sometimes when people come to see me as a chiropractor, they think I'm kind of the traditional limited scope practitioner that helps folks with neck pain and back pain and that sort of thing. And so when I start talking about this stuff, they're like, what's a chiropractor doing talking about that? And so I always want to make sure I cover, why would I be covering this important topic? So as a wellness chiropractor, not only is it my job to help you with your spine and your nervous system, but also to help you learn ways to stop recreating patterns and problems, so we can even prevent problems in the future for you. And so it turns out that chiropractic is based on the simple truths that the body is self-healing and self-regulating. So what does that mean, self-healing? If you cut yourself, you're going to heal up, right? When was the last time you cut a body? What happened to it? A dead body. Nothing happens to a dead body, right? Exactly. And that's because there's no life force moving through it. There might be a nervous system in a dead body, but without any life force, it's not going to heal. So only living systems would be self-healing, and that means that we get to be self-healing. We are also self-regulating. And that means, of course, that we don't even have to think about it, but our organs are all running just perfectly fine, below or without our conscious control of them. And so what system is in charge of allowing us to be self-healing and self-regulating? Who knows?
The nervous system.
Nervous system, exactly. It's the purpose of the brain and the nervous system to control and coordinate all of the functions of the cells, tissues, organs, every system in the body, and that therefore allows us to adapt to our environment. One of the ways that we adapt to our environment is we first have to perceive what's happening in the environment, and then based on our perception of what's happening, that input goes to the brain interprets it, and then elicits a response. So what if we had distorted perceptions of the environment? Our response might be inappropriate. That means we're not going to be adapting properly to the environment because we're not responding appropriately. And when we take a look, you're going to see, when we take a look at emotional and mental stress, what's that all based on? Our perception, that's right. So if we can use that information, we can actually figure out ways, and even fast ways, to shift how emotional stress tends to affect our physiology. Everybody knows emotional stress is harmful to us. That's no question about it. But tonight you're going to learn the link of why it is and then what you can do about it. All right, and so is there anything at all that the nervous system does not control? Even one thing? Couldn't there be something that the nervous system does not control? You're right, absolutely nothing. Did you have a guess?
No.
Not now. We literally are living our lives through our nervous system. So everywhere that you can think of where your body is, your nervous system is there. Every tissue cell has a range of 3 to 9 nerve fibers going to it. Right? So just imagine that. Everywhere that you are, that's where your nervous system is. So if we start to interfere with the nervous system, what's going to happen? The brain's communication is going to get interfered with, and what's going to happen to our ability to adapt? It's going to start tanking, right? And that means our ability to self-heal and self-regulate is going to go with it. And so the nerve interference that occurs when we have interferences in the nervous system, we call them subluxations, when that occurs, that's going to cause the nerve interference which interferes with our function. So my job is to not only help your body correct those subluxations, but also I need to show you the ways to quit recreating them. And if we can do that together, then you get to feel better, prevent problems in the future, and even reverse the effects of aging. That's what folks report to us, is that They are taking years, they're going back in the aging process. They're reclaiming activities and robustness and vitality that they thought they had lost due to aging. And again, when you put all those things together, you get to just have the best life possible, right? Anybody interested in that, right? Absolutely. All right. And so here's what the problem is, though, is that the cause of subluxations is stress. And we can look at it in 3 dimensions. There's physical stress. That's what most people think cause nerve interference. Oh, I lifted something the wrong way, or I got hit by a car, those sorts of things, physical stresses. But it turns out that mental emotional stress is another big cause, and chemical stresses. And we're not going to talk about the chemical stresses tonight. We're going to focus on mental emotional stresses. And so anytime you have any stress that you're not adapting to of any of these categories, the result is that it impacts your nervous system. And so, again, my job as a chiropractor is to correct the subluxations, which restores the nerve supply. But what if you keep piling the stress on over and over, right? Then it's going to be hard for the ground that we're going to need to cover in a program of care if your goal is optimum wellness and optimum function, but every week you pile it back on again, right? So what if you were able to stop piling it on, then during each visit we're going to cover much more ground. So correcting the subluxation is one thing, but showing you ways to stop recreating it is also important if we're going to get to the places where you want to get to with your health. So let's now talk about balancing mental and emotional stress. And we're going to look at a few facts here. The first fact is that your brain cannot tell the difference between your thoughts and reality. It cannot tell the difference. So any thought you have, your brain, its job is to take that thought and respond to it as though it's happening right now. That's its job. So let's just do let's play with this a little bit. I want everybody to hold in your hand your imaginary lemon, okay? You've already cut it. There's a little juice dribbling down your hand there. Don't lick it yet, okay? All right? It's cut in a nice wedge shape, so in a moment, when I count to 3, all together, we're going to just chomp on that lemon and suck on it deeply, all right? So all together now, 1, 2, 3, go. Okay. Now, by show of hands, how many people noticed something happened in their mouth or in their body, something like that? Look around you, right? Look at that. A lot of people did. Now, check this out. We knew we were pretending, right? We knew we were making it up, right? And so what does that tell you? It doesn't even matter if you make it up. It's only whatever thought you put in there, the brain automatically will just start to respond to that. Isn't that far out? And it's fantastic news, isn't it? Why would it be great news for that to understand that?
Because you can think about things the way you want.
That's right. You can start to choose your thoughts. Exactly. And so that's the very next thing here is that your body will secrete dangerously high levels of stress hormones in response to stressful thoughts, or it will secrete healthy feel-good chemicals in response to balanced thoughts of appreciation and gratitude. It's all written right there for you, Laura.
Oh, good, thank you.
Yeah. All right, so it's fantastic news. Okay, let's see what the next fact is. And remember, the brain is taking things literally. And that means the old saying, garbage in, garbage out, right? If all your thoughts are just negative thoughts, your body is just going to feel completely overloaded just by your thought. Never mind other things happening around you, right? Your thoughts alone can do that. And what we find is that the more that there is thoughts about positive things, the more vibrant the health is. The research shows that. And remember that there's no in-between or gray area. It's either going to be one or the other. And if we take it all the way down to a cellular level, a cell itself has 2 modes it can be in. It can be in defense or it can be in safety. If it's in safety, it gets to grow, it gets to adapt, all of that. If it's in defense, all of the resources are just going to survive the next minute. And if it's true at the cellular level, guess what? It's true at the whole organism level as well. So you're either going to be in defense or safety, but you're not going to be at both at the same time. Okay, so what's the next fact? stress is created by our compulsive reoccurring thoughts about the past or future, or poor self-talk. And the self-talk is the stuff that you don't even notice anymore. It's just running a tape, right? So, since we know that, we know that the stress response can be elicited simply by thinking about events past or future, especially events that cause anxiety or tension. That's the key. All right? And so if you take a look at that idea of the past or future compulsive or anxious thoughts, pretty much we're talking about negative emotions. And believe it or not, you can actually do a search online for negative emotions, and there's actually a list, maybe more than one list, and that list, it has over 500 different words, different emotions that are negative. Over 500 of them. Yeah. So we have plenty of variety and choice there. But we can also go in a different direction. But if you check out and you actually look at those words, you'll start to notice that those are words that are living either in the past or the future. So, for example, if we think of guilt, where is that living?
Past.
Past, that's right. Something that happened before and you're still thinking about it. You're still feeling terrible about it, right? Guilt. Okay, how about shame? Past, exactly. How about anxiety? Tends to be future, that's right. Worry tends to be future. Yeah. Do you see how that works? How about resentment? Past, tends to be past. Anger? It can be a combination, that's right. Because we're really good at imagining what might happen. Exactly, yeah. All right, so just notice all that. That's important information for us. And so what it tells us then is that our brains actually were designed to work best in one particular time period. Is it past, is it future, or is it present? Present time. Because look, we just held up an imaginary lemon in present time, and our brain immediately is responding to it. Yeah. So our brains are designed to work best in present time. Okay, if we look at the stress response, it causes the nervous system to rapidly increase the heart rate, and check out all these things, because these are all things that if a tiger really showed up, this is exactly what you would want your body to do. So it would increase the heart rate, increase sweat production, the brain would dump massive amounts of these stress hormones into your blood, and if it only did it for the 15 seconds while the tiger was actually here, it would help you to round up all of your resources to run as fast as you could or to fight as hard as you could. And that's how long it was designed to be there to be effective and useful to us. 15 seconds. Once it's there longer than that, then that same short-term strategy does not become a very good long-term strategy. And those stress hormones, the cortisol that's running around our bodies, it increases inflammation, and it's very much related to chronic diseases and all kinds of things. Because we don't really want the heart rate to be rapid all the time. We don't want to have the just sweating and a whole sympathetic response. And all of this will actually accelerate the aging process if it's ongoing or if it's prolonged. This response, it was meant, again, for short term. Unfortunately, in today's culture, in today's society, it's allowed to go on way longer than it was ever meant to. So just by show of hands, how many people in the room, however long you've been on the planet here, how many of you, and how many times, I'm going to ask as well, have you actually been face-to-face, like within, I would say, 10 or 20 feet, without anything in between you, with a tiger? Nobody. Oh, well, that's actually what the whole system was designed for, was when you actually encountered the tiger, right? So ideally, none of us should have ever had a stress response here, because we never really faced something that literally was life-threatening. But that's what the system was designed to do, you see? And yet, how many people have ever experienced stress? Every single person, yeah. And I'm not going to ask how many times, right? So we know that it's rampant in our culture. So the other things that can happen with the stress response is the arteries around our heart actually shrink, our hands get cold, our brain goes into an erratic rhythm when we're in a stress mode. And in fact, in one part of our brain, the smartest part of our brain, the prefrontal cortex, That's the part where we can really think about things, look at nuances, consider possibilities. That's the smart part that can actually come up with useful solutions to things, right? Thinking outside the box, right? That's that part right there. But because it takes so long to process information there, if the tiger was chasing you, you would not want to use that part to figure it out, right? But instead you want to use the back part of the brain, the simpler part, the reptilian part of the brain that is all about black and white. Like, run, is this good or bad, right? And if it's not good, run, right? That's the part that's going to save your life because it'll respond so fast that even before you think about it, you're already running, right? That's what's going to save your life. So that's the part that would do all of these things. And so that means that anything that's going to distract or slow down your response, the brain will just shut that down. So what other things would the brain shut down that would not be useful in fighting a tiger? How about, what did your mom tell you about swimming after eating? Right? Don't swim after you've eaten, right? Why?
You get cramp.
You get a cramp. Why would you get a cramp?
Digestion.
Because your digestion needs blood flow, and if you've eaten, it's all going there, and all of a sudden you start to swim, and all that blood flow is going to go back out to the muscles, and it's going to stop the digestion, and then you get a cramp because you're not digesting your food. Right? So when the tiger shows up, are you going to waste any energy on digesting it? No. That shuts down immediately. Right? What else is not useful for fighting a tiger?
Immune system.
Immune system. Not useful, right? That's long term, right? But to fight a tiger, that would be a waste of energy, right? And then the other part is also this prefrontal cortex. So this literally becomes ischemic, meaning we stop the blood flow there. So the only way the brain works is if there's blood flow there, right? That shuts down when we're in a stress response. The smartest part of our brain shuts down when we're under stress. Anybody here notice that you don't make your best decisions when you're under stress? That's why. That's physiologically what's happening. Okay, so the immune system tanks, stress hormones increase, even your breathing will become more rapid, and all that would make sense and be a good thing if the tiger was actually here in front of you. But what we find is that prolonged stress response now actually is what's producing the stress hormones, and all those things are associated with increasing cancer risk, heart disease, strokes, Alzheimer's, osteoporosis, the list goes on and on. How do they know that that's what happens when you're in a stress response? How did they figure that out? They actually have the patients that were connected to a neurofeedback equipment, and that actually was what measured the respiratory rate and the heart rate and the changes in the skin and the brainwave patterns and so on. And so they hooked people up to it, and then guess what they had them do, right? They had them recall a negative thought, and then they watched what was happening in their bodies. And their bodies responded as if they were actually reliving the experience. Now, they also did this with athletes. And they took the athletes and sat them just down in a chair. That's all they were doing, was just sitting in a chair. But then what happened is they hooked them all up with all this sophisticated equipment, and then they had them visualize that they were playing their sport, right? And so just at the time that they were imagining that they were playing their sport, moving through those motions, but really all they were doing was sitting there, the muscle twitches and their body, everything responded as though they actually were doing that motion. The muscles twitched in the order that they would have moved if they had actually performed that motion. Yeah. So again, they're just sitting and visualizing it, but the body is responding. The brain is doing exactly what it's being told to do. It's responding in present time. All right, and so since we know this is true, why not recall experiences that activate appreciation, gratitude, or that feel good to you? And that's actually the key to it all. And when they looked at this even more and more closely, they found out the very fastest way to get the body out of a stress response was going directly to gratitude. You know, there's lots of positive emotions we could choose, but going to gratitude was the fastest way to get there. That's good information for us. All right, so now let's look at the 3 powerful balancing strategies for dealing with emotional stress. The first one is to break the cycle by increasing your awareness of your thoughts. So thought awareness is the way to break the cycle. So the first thing is to just start being aware of your thoughts and any internal self-talk that you have. And remember that self-talk, oftentimes, it's so familiar to us that in some ways we're almost comfortable with it. So you have to watch very carefully on the self-talk one, because sometimes we'll go into self-talk to bring comfort and familiarity, but actually when you look at the content of that self-talk, it's actually negative. And it's our way to protect ourselves, because if we get to criticize ourselves before anybody else, somehow that's easier for us, less painful. Okay, so we have to recognize that we're on autopilot. Then once you notice that your thoughts are unloving or stressful, you just hit the stop button, right? Just like you held the lemon, right? You just hit the stop button. And some people, especially in the beginning, they'll even go, stop. Like they recognize it, stop. And why would actually doing a motion and saying something out loud, why would that help even more? Because you're using more parts of your brain when you're doing that. If you just think quietly to yourself, stop, it'll be effective. There'll still be something that'll happen. But if you engage your body with it and your voice and you're hearing it, it engages all the parts of your brain to do that. So you press the stop button, and then you just dismiss it. And so here's what some people do. Darn it, there I go again, having that negative thought. Oh, whoops, here comes that self-talk again. Oh, I'm never going to get this right? Can you just see ourselves doing that, right? So the best thing to do is once you recognize it is to laugh about it and say, oh, I gotcha. Just be playful about it and just laugh about it. And then you want to press the play button on for thoughts of gratitude, appreciation, or anything that feels good. Right? That's what you go to, anything that feels good. And so there are different ways to work with this. Now, does anybody here know that if a hate truck goes by, you get to wish on it? Did you ever know about that rule? That's a rule. Yeah, you know that rule, right? Sometimes they go by so fast, they're gone. It's like a shooting star. You can wish on shooting stars, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so my daughter and I, we have this thing where we have our wishes already ready. And then whenever something shows up, we already have it ready, right? So we're ready to go, right? So I'm going to suggest that you think about things that you're grateful for and just have it in your back pocket that whenever there's stress, you can always go to that thing because that's the thing that you're always going to be grateful for, right? So it could be, your spouse that you're in love with, or it could be just nature. Just love nature, like especially a special place that you have when you go there. You just feel so connected, right? So whatever it is that you're grateful for. For some people, I am so grateful I can take a breath in. It can be as simple as that. I am so grateful I can feel the ground beneath my feet. I'm grateful for Mother Earth. I'm grateful for gravity. It's holding me down here. Right? So you see, you can go anywhere you want with it. The only thing that's important is that it brings up the emotion of gratitude, because that's the thing that changes the hormones in your body. So gratitude is the fastest way to go with it. And just having something ready for gratitude is great. But another thing that you can do is you can also play the as-if game. And I call this the as-if game because a lot of people play the what-if game, which oftentimes brings them to the worst-case scenario, right? Like they get one little piece of information and then they're like, well, what if this happened? And what if this happened? And what if this happened? And they're going to all these places where they're getting more and more stressed, thinking of what if, right? But what I'm suggesting is that you play the as-if game. Because the truth is that we don't really know what outcomes are going to come. And there may be many different scenarios that could play out. So since we really don't get to know, what if we actually just visualized a scenario that would be fantastic? What do you think is going to happen to the chemicals in your body and your experience in your body if you go to that place where everything's fantastic, right? And remember, it actually doesn't matter what the picture is or whether you even get there. What only matters is that you're in that state of gratitude in the present moment. Yeah. And in that state of gratitude in the present moment, what starts to get blood flow again? Prefrontal cortex. And what is the prefrontal cortex so good at? Problem solving, opportunities, thinking outside the box, creativity, love, humor. Our compassion is what lives here. Our humanity lives here, right? All the other creatures on the earth have, not all of them, but different degrees of parts of the brain, right? Reptilian and so on, mammalian brain, but we're the only ones that have this prefrontal cortex. So that's the thing that brings us our humanity. So anything we do that gets the blood flow going there is going to be a good thing. Even if it seems like an insurmountable stress that's happening, you can go to your back pocket gratitude to start with, and then there's going to be some other things that we'll look at. But then just going to that place of, well, what if it actually, instead of being this, what if it was like this? And then you say, what would that feel like if this is actually what was happening? And then that's the key phrase is, what would that feel like? That's how you get it into your body. So it's one thing to come up with a mental image or possibility of something, but then you have to go to that next step of, well, what would that feel like? And then you just let that flood into your body. And then just feeling grateful to have that flood in your body. You see, that's where you go with it. All right, so this is the way to balance and release emotional stresses in the safest way, because we're just using our thoughts to go in different places. And that helps to balance our emotional well-being. The autopilot piece, again, you want to watch that carefully. And here's one other example. So sometimes we'll have thoughts, and again, they're familiar, or somehow there was some connection that was made that made an impression on us, and then we just went with that. Here's an example. There was a fellow, he was in his 40s, and he recognized that he was afraid of trying new things. And then at one point he had this experience of remembering when he was 3 or 4 years old, he was at the Ferris wheel, ready to get on with his grandmother, and he's all excited, and so he's jumping, like, oh, I'm going to go on the Ferris wheel, right? And his grandmother looks down and says, oh, don't be afraid, it'll be all right. And so the excitement that he was feeling, his grandmother named fear. And so after that, whenever he felt excitement, he interpreted it as fear. Better not do that. And it wasn't until he was in his 40s that he recognized that's what it was. And so once he recognized that, after that, his life opened up, because when he started to have that feeling, he walked towards it instead of backing away from it. Isn't that amazing? So an important question to ask when a stress shows up is, whose thought is that? Because a lot of times it's not even our thought. And even the people around us might be having something going on for them, and you're just picking up on it. You're in a great mood, and all of a sudden, wow, what's that feeling? Whose thought is that? And you'll be surprised when you ask yourself that question of whose thought is that. You don't even need an answer, but if you immediately go into, right? You don't have to know whose it was. You just recognize, oh, but it's not mine. I'll just go back to being in joy where I was. Right? Yeah. So, but that's a good tool too. It's just asking yourself, whose thought is that? Okay. So the next stage is breath awareness and relaxation. Because we know from the studies where they hooked up the equipment, the breathing changed when the person was in stress. But what they also found out was if you changed your breathing rhythm, you could actually turn the stress switch off in your brain. So it goes both ways, you see. The stress will create the change in the breath, but our breath is a wonderful thing because it either is involuntary, like if you fall asleep, you're going to breathe. If you hold your breath until you pass out, then you start breathing again, right? So it's involuntary and voluntary. And so if we use our voluntary aspect of our breath, we can actually start to regulate the rhythm of our breath, and that can turn the stress switch off in our brain. And so there is a particular rhythm. There's lots of different ways to regulate the breath that are very useful. I've just chosen one of them tonight to share with you that's just a simple, easy one. So you take a deep breath in through your nose, you hold it for 4 seconds. You breathe in for 4 seconds, hold it for 2 seconds, and then you exhale for 4 seconds. All right, so let's all do that together to see what it's like. And you may want to kind of sit up in your chair so you can actually get a nice full breathing capacity, fill the lungs there. All right, so all together, breathing in, hold it, breathing out. Now, for some people, when they do this the first time, they kind of run out on the exhale. And so that's a good thing to recognize. So it's just a 4 second in, hold it for 2, 4 second out. So once you start to get that rhythm going, it oftentimes can just start to shift, and everything starts to settle down in the brain and actually starts to turn that stress switch off. So once you've done that, you just start to notice the feeling of the breath going through your body. So you feel it going in past your nostrils, You can feel it going down your trachea. You can feel your lungs expanding, your chest moving as the breath's going in and out. And even just imagine it circling around the heart. And then imagine it just gently leaving through just notice it. It's just noticing it. So that, what does that do as far as if you were in future stress or past stress? What does this exercise do?
Forces you to focus on the present.
Present, brings you right into present. And so a great way to come back to the present time is 5 sensing. Like suddenly just look at, what are you seeing? What are you hearing? What are you smelling? What are you tasting in your mouth? What are you feeling under your feet, under your body, under your arms, under your bottom if you're sitting, right? Just noticing what you're feeling. We're going to come back to that in a minute. But let's stay with this now with the breath as it bringing you into the present moment. All right, and then what you'll do is as you keep that rhythm of the breath going, you're going to then focus your attention on your body parts and releasing any tension that they hold. And then you just allow each part to relax even more during each exhalation phase of your breath. So I want to take you through just a quick guided process with this so that you can see how fast it really is. So I'm just going to kind of look at the clock and see what time it is and see how long is this actually going to take. And we'll see if you feel any different before and after. All right, so I'm going to ask you to just sit with your legs uncrossed, sitting comfortably, feet on the floor. And you're going to close your eyes so you can stay more internally focused. And then just start your breathing where you're breathing in and holding it for a couple seconds. And then breathing out. And then I'm going to ask you to continue your rhythm on your own and just cycle it through. And as you do this, I want you to start by just becoming aware of your feet and any tension that's in your feet. And just let that tension just release as you exhale. Sometimes when you come to a body part, you'll want to maybe wiggle that a little bit or move it a little bit to really let it release, connect and then release. Notice your toes, the arches of the feet, releasing any tension that's there. Then going up to the ankles and letting go of any tension that's there. Coming up to the calves and releasing. Coming right up to the back of the legs, the thighs. And the front of the legs, just letting the tension release. Coming into your hips, letting the tension release from there. The buttocks, letting it go. Into the lower back, and just releasing any tension that shows up there. The lower stomach, the ribs, releasing any tension that's found. The upper stomach, then behind your shoulder blades, between them. And then even out into the shoulders, just letting that tension drop away. Letting the arms drop tension, the forearms, the palms of the hand dropping tension, the fingertips dropping tension, and coming back up right into the neck, just letting the tension drop away. Releasing tension from the scalp, releasing tension from the jaws, from the teeth, from the eyes and the muscles around and behind the eyes. The forehead, the face, just letting the tension drop away. And just feeling the oxygen moving through your windpipe into your lungs to center right around your chest, breathing around your heart. And just recognize that this is the natural state of ease. This is where we're supposed to spend most of our time. So when you recognize that you're not here, it's so easy to come back to it by simply closing your eyes and scanning your body. When you're ready, you can just gently open your eyes and see what kind of breath you want to take now to connect. And so this is a very useful tool that you actually could use almost any time. Not if you're driving. But if you're a passenger in the car or on public transportation. Or, does anybody here ever use the bathroom? Oh, you do? Great. Because that means that wherever you are, you just say, excuse me, where's the bathroom? And you go there, and nobody will bother you in there. Yeah. You'll get like 2 or 3 minutes just to yourself there, and you can do your little scan there, right? So remember that this is something that can be useful lots of different ways, lots of different times. But let's say you're actually driving and you're feeling stressed. Then you're going to go to your plan B, where you keep your eyes open. And you can still change your breathing, so you can still work with the rhythm of your breathing, and you can also still work with your awareness of your body. So you can just check in to see, oh, my knuckles are white because I'm gripping the steering wheel. I'm just going to let that relax a little bit. And you may even notice that as you change your breathing, all of a sudden you feel more warmth and circulation going into your hands, even as you're continuing to drive. So there's lots of ways to do that, and another good thing is the 5 sensing. So you're driving along, you just start to name the things that you're seeing with your eyes. And that you're not going into an embellishment of the qualities. You're just saying, I see a tree, I see a car, I see a stoplight, I see this, I see that. And so you're just naming those things. Then you can go to, what do I hear? You just start naming those things. And this is something you can do at any time. And anytime you're in an anxious state, if you stop paying attention to that thing and you just go to, name 5 things that I can see right now. Right? You name them. Name 5 things that I can hear right now. Somebody shuffling their paper, someone shifting their seat. I can hear the computer breathing. Do you hear that? Oh, I can hear the air conditioning. I just heard a truck go by. It's amazing how many sounds there are, right? So you name 5 sounds. Then you name things you feel. Oh, I can feel the floor under my feet. I can feel this under my elbow. Actually, it's a little bit of pressure there. Oh, yeah. I feel the waistband of my clothing against my skin. Right? So you just start to look at 5 things you feel. If you want to, you can go with smells, even taste. You can see what's there. But again, just working with the 3 of the seeing, hearing, and feeling. It's a great way to go. Then, once you've done 5 of each, now you go back and you name 4 different things that you see. To be different ones. And then 4 different things that you hear. 4 different things that you're feeling. Then you go back and you do 3 of each thing. And they always have to be different. So you have to be looking closer and closer, listening closer and closer. And then down to 2, and then down to 1. By the time you've concentrated and worked so hard to notice all those things, your brain is in present moment. And of course, what's happening then? The stress switch starts to get turned off. Right? So that's another fast way of, if you're just feeling stressed, to just go there fast. 5 sensing it. Okay. Once we go into that easeful state, recognize all those other things are going to change in your body too. The heart rate, the blood pressure, the sweating, the digestion, the immune system, all those things change too. And we know that, again, from just doing the basic biofeedback. And another good time to do this is either in the morning when you wake up, you know, the alarm goes off, right? Let's change the name of that, right? Alarm clock, right? Peacefully awakening clock, right? Right? You get your signal to wake up. That could be a time for you to actually just do the scan of your body. Or when it's time to go to sleep. That's another great time to do it. Some people in the shower is when they do their scan. Right? So just start to think of a time when you actually could do it regularly and establish it as a rhythm and a habit for yourself. So what would that be like if every single day you were doing that as a practice? And how long does it take, right? The research may show that meditating 3 hours a day has benefits, right? How many people have that they can put in their schedule, right? Okay, but how many people could fit 2 minutes of running a scan through your body, right? Everybody can. And the research shows us it's very, very effective, and perhaps even almost equally as effective as 3 hours of meditation. All right, and so now we've looked at that. Next we're going to look at this third step, which is affirmations, or the ways to install healthier patterns. And this directly goes to the self-talk that we often encounter. So affirmations are statements that we make consciously that describe how we would love things to be. Okay, that's the affirmation. And they would replace the old ingrained patterns of negative self-talk. And then they are also, the rules are they have to be stated in the present tense, and they should activate feelings of ease, peace, gratitude, appreciation, and safety. So, sometimes people might try this new thing, affirmations, out, and the statement that they want to conquer would be something like, oh, I always get things wrong. And so then they go to, I'm always right. And when they say they're always right, they get really stressed when they say that statement. That would not be a good affirmation, you see? Instead, they went to something like, I accept myself with love and peace, right? Do you see the difference there? All right, and so that's one of the rules with affirmations, is they have to bring you to a state of ease. So the affirmations are great because if you look at how our culture is set up, like at the end of the day, you're around the dinner table, and what is it that most people are talking about? Everything that went wrong that day, right? Even if there were, 500 things that went right, but there were 2 things that went wrong, what are the things that you tend to be talking about that day, right? Usually we are trained to go to the misery place. And so with the affirmations, it's a way for us to, on a regular basis, just keep coming back to the positive thought patterns. And again, if it does bring up that state of ease, then you're changing the chemistry in your body. And so that's going to be a healthy choice for you. So here are some examples of ways to use affirmations. The old patterns that you would want to delete, and then the new pattern that would replace it. So, oh, that sure was stupid. Right, we've heard that before. What if you instead said, I am intelligent? I am intelligent. In fact, there's a lot of evidence that I am intelligent here. Right? That is just my bad luck. Only good lies before me. Another terrible day. I count my blessings daily. It's dangerous out there. All is well and I am safe. Notice how it's present tense. It's dangerous out there. That's thinking, that's usually future, right, concerns. But right now, all is well. I'm safe right now. See, that's a good one to go to present time with. Getting old is no fun. I express vibrant health. Which one would you like to have, right? Exactly. I hate when I do that. That is such a cliche that we hear all the time as a joke, but, using it as a joke, maybe it's not a good idea. How about, I love and accept myself. And there's a great line called, if the story you're using isn't working, make up a new one. And Dr. Donald Epstein said that, and he said that because he found that people's physiology literally changed, their nervous system changed if they just thought different thoughts. And so because our brains are always functioning in that present time, even if we have historically something terrible that happened, what if you actually went through an exercise of imagining, well, if it didn't happen that way, what if it had happened this way? What would that have felt like? See? You can actually just rewrite how your body is storing that memory into connecting it with feelings of ease or gratitude. You can do that. Now, there's another piece that you can do, and it's called equilibration. And what that is when you go to the place where you actually can be grateful for what you learned with something, or what was the gratefulness that you actually got out of that very unpleasant experience, right? It might be simply, at least I can teach my kid what not to do, right? Or I can teach someone else, don't do it this way, right? Or have anybody ever had the experience of something terrible happening, but then you met somebody because of it, and now you're great friends with that person, but if that terrible thing had never happened, right? And it would shut up. Or how many people have had the experience of being helped with something? Like you needed help and someone showed up to help you. Do you know that you are serving that person who's helping you as well in the process? And they get to be grateful for the opportunity to serve. And so there's a whole process you can dive into called equilibrating that allows you to take these kinds of experiences that you thought were negative, and you can actually do some exploring and you can find what you're grateful for in them. The other quote by Dr. Epstein is, "It's never too late to have a happy childhood." Mm-hmm. And it's true, because that's already passed. It's not going to happen again. Just think in your mind, what if it was different? And then you can start to create those feel-good feelings. And again, the biofeedback actually shows that when you do that, your whole physiology changes from it. And here's an example. So there was a guy who was walking by a construction site, and he was curious, what could they possibly be doing here? He saw these guys, looked like they were just breaking rocks, and so as he walked past the site, he wanted to see, I wonder what's going on here. And so he asked the first guy, who was breaking them, "Hey, what are you doing?" And the guy says, "I'm breaking rocks." And he goes back to doing what he's doing, right? He goes, "Okay, thanks." And then he goes to the next guy, "What are you doing?" And this guy is doing same actions, but he stands up and says, "I'm working to earn a living for my family." Right? Then he goes to the next guy, who is apparently the same thing. He says, "What are you doing here?" And that guy stops, and he stands up tall, and he says, "I'm helping to build a cathedral for the glory of God." All right, so which of those three do you think is going to have the work comp accident? Right? Right? Which one is going to die of a heart attack on the job? Right? Yeah? Exactly. Do you see? It was the same action, but it was the meaning that was put to the action that determined how it affected the physiology and even that person's life. Right? And so I love that story because it really is telling. And what is it that we forget and we take for granted and we get mad about it, and we forget what we're actually grateful for in that moment about that experience. All right. Now, for some of you, you'll really want to make sure that you're doing this right. And so you'll want to invest in your own biofeedback equipment. And I'll tell you that this equipment, it's actually the same kind of technology that maybe at a smaller scale, but that we use in the practice when we're doing our exams of you. And the wellness indicators that looks at your heart rate variability, right? That actually tells us, are you in a state of balance and ease when you're in a neutral environment? Or is your brain running your organs like there's a tiger in the room, even though you're just in a neutral environment, right? And so for folks that really want to make sure they're doing it right, we actually looked at what kind of biofeedback equipment could be out there that folks could use if they wanted to actually train themselves using this model. And so there's 3 that we have there. WildDivine.com makes one, the HeartMath Solution makes one, and Stress Eraser makes one. The WildDivine one, last time we checked, was between $300 and $400. The HeartMath was about $250. The Stress Eraser, I like this one because you don't have to have it hooked up to a computer in order to have it work. You can actually, it's more portable. And you can pay a little extra to actually have the software program for the computer as well. So, but there's lots of choices for you there. And so that's a resource. Another resource would be some books and DVDs to kind of get you trained up. So, Loving What Is by Byron Katie. Anybody here ever read any of Byron Katie's work? Yeah, I can see some big hands going out. She has a process she calls The Work. And what I love about her book is she tells you everything you need to know in the first 20 pages. And the rest is just all examples of how she uses it. But with Byron Katie, it's a series of asking yourself 4 questions. She was a woman that was actually in a psychiatric ward, pretty much locked away. There you go. And she figured out that if she asked herself these 4 questions, that if she was in a state of chaos and confusion, that it would just bring her right back to present time, clear thinking, joy, ease, peace. And so she just used those same 4 questions over and over again, and she brought herself back to sanity. Came out of the psych ward and ended up writing about it. and talking with people about it, and now she's changed millions of people's lives. So you can get her book used for pennies. It's in every bookstore. And it's called Loving What Is. And there's actually even groups in the community that co-facilitate each other. And there's a group here in Burlington, Greater Burlington, that does it too. So if you like that, if you get connected with it, there's even more you can explore with it. Loving What Is. And, you know, I won't go through all the questions, but an example would be the question of, whatever I'm thinking right now, is that really true? Like, am I 100% sure that that is true? What do you think the answer is going to be pretty much most of the time? I can't be 100% sure that that's true. Right? And so then you have to say, well, no, then I'm not 100% sure that that's true. And then another one of the questions is, what would I be like? Who would I be if I didn't have that thought? Oh, a minute ago, before I had that thought, I was actually just noticing the bright sunshine, and I was in a pretty good mood, right? Until I had that thought, right? Oh, well, what would I be like if I didn't have that thought? Oh, I'd be in a good mood again. You see? So sometimes we'll hear information, and the information is about something that we didn't know about. It was already going on, but we didn't know about it. All of a sudden, we get the information, and now we go into a big stress thing. But if we actually never even got the information, we'd still be in a peaceful place. And especially when it's information that we can't really do anything about, right? What would it be like if we just recognized that I actually don't know the full truth about this, so I guess I'll just go back to ease and not knowing and not knowing for sure, right? Which means I don't know. How can I stress about it? I don't really know. And then one other piece of it is the turnaround, which is if you're saying that he's a jerk, and then you say, well, is that really true? Well, I guess it isn't 100% true. And then you say, well, what would it be like if I had that thought? But then the last part, the turnaround, is what if you took that very phrase and instead of saying, he's a jerk, you actually spun it around to, I'm a jerk. Oh, I am a jerk for thinking that he's a jerk. Do you see? So the turnaround often helps us identify when we're just projecting our stuff all over everybody else. It's so useful, and it allows you to start laughing at yourself about it, too. All right, so that's Loving What Is. 101 Power Thoughts by a woman named Louise Hay. Who knows Louise Hay? She's the mother of affirmations. She is the woman who started the whole movement so many years ago. She's still alive, and she is going strong. And so she's the one that created that. It's a fantastic book. Count Your Blessings is by Dr. John DeMartini. He's a chiropractor, and it's all about the healing power of gratitude. So if you're having any trouble at all trying to figure out how does that gratitude thing work, it's a great book that leads you directly there. And he also has another one called The Breakthrough Experience, which is how to equilibrate things. So if you want to get better at that, it's a fantastic book for that. And his statement is that, because here's what happens a lot of times when I'm teaching this. Aren't there people in the class that say, what you're saying, like you get bad news, and then you're just supposed to go to a happy place? That's Pollyanna, right? Pollyanna gets a bad name, but you know what? Pollyanna had a very happy life, didn't she? And so the next thing they'll say is, you're just being in denial. That's what they'll say. Something bad has happened, and you're just being in denial about it. And you know what Dr. John DeMartini says? He says, every bad has a good we are denying.
But to counter that, if, you can be burying your head in the sand, or you can hear something bad and say, what can I do to fix it? Which is positive.
Yeah, but here's the thing. If you're in a stress mode, where are you going to be finding the best solutions?
Nowhere.
No. So if you use this technique, it doesn't make the thing go away, but it puts you in a whole different place to look at it.
Yeah.
You're going to have much more creative solutions if you go through these processes with something. You see? Because when you're in the stress response, you can't see any way out of it. Right? But you just don't get to know. And so since you don't get to know, whatever you were sure about, that's terrible, right? You actually don't get to know, right? Mark Twain, I think it was Mark Twain, on his deathbed, he said, my life has been filled with troubles, most of which never happened. You see? Yeah. So I know that people go to that place of your head in the sand, but it's not going to happen that way. We're too smart for that. But we'll get even smarter if we choose our thoughts about things and go to the place that brings us ease. Oh my goodness, we have a brain that can actually do that. We, human beings have the unique ability to take a negative stress and turn it into a positive stress. We have that unique ability in our brain to be able to do that. So let's use it. I love what Dr. DeMartini says about that. And I have used that when I felt like, I can't see any way out of this one. And I think, but wait a minute, what's the good that I'm denying here? And sometimes I just go to, there's something good that I actually don't know yet about this.
Happens for a reason.
Happens for a reason, exactly. I was meant to encounter this so it will challenge me to see what more good I can do in the world. Right? This experience chose me because I was ready to deal with it. I had an experience when I was pregnant with my daughter, and I was called a senile mother because simply my age. And so they wanted to do all these tests with me to see, what if something wrong has happened, right? And so I just thought to myself, okay, wait, now do I want to do that? And what I realized for myself, not true of everybody, but for myself, I realized I had already made an agreement with that person to come in that I was going to be their parent. I had already made that agreement. With however it showed up, I had made that agreement with them. And so I chose, no, I'm not gonna do that stuff because I just already made this agreement with them. I'm gonna take what comes my way and do my best. And it was actually a very empowering experience. But so much of our culture is embedding us in fear about things. And so what if we actually can take these processes and start to change things ourselves, right? Just with our thoughts. All right, so what else? You Can Heal Your Life. It's also by Louise Hay. It's a DVD. It's a good one. Have you seen it? Yeah, right up. And then Peaceful Warrior is a DVD, and it is actually based on the book The Way of the Peaceful Warrior by Dan Millman. Yeah, fantastic book and DVD. I also included this website. Anybody here ever seen this one? AuthenticHappiness.com. What I love about this website is you can go on the website and you can take a little test. And it's kind of a survey kind of thing. And it will rate you at your level of happiness. And then you can go back at another time and do the test again. And it'll save your response and it'll show you how things are changing over time. I happen to like those survey things. Not everybody does, but I love this because of that. It's a fun thing to just watch the changes over time. All right, so what happens if you learn strategies to deal with and decrease your emotional mental stress, but you're still subluxated? What if you're not addressing the subluxation patterns? It's good that you're not going to keep piling them back on again, but if you haven't actually corrected the damage that's already been done, that's already happening there, then that's going to be affecting your ability, actually the flexibility and adaptability in your nervous system. And so getting adjusted actually helps you get very fast to that state of ease. And when I work with folks, if you come in and there's something that's been stressful to you, we get you on the table, we have you bring that up, and I actually help to clear your nervous system so that that prefrontal cortex starts to get flooded with that blood flow. So it's a great way to jumpstart the process. And I'll have people think of that stressful thing, and then I have them think of the best outcome where you're in a state of ease. And then we watch what happens in the physiology, and we can literally see how their nervous system gets more easeful when they change their thought process about it. And so that's important. And also, what if you've only learned, what if this is the only class you've been to and you've only learned the mental emotional stress piece? Guess what? If you start to manage your mental emotional stress, it's actually going to help you detox your body better, and it's going to help you deal with physical stresses better as well. Yeah. So we know that getting subluxated is going to interfere with your ability to manage emotional stresses, and getting a clear nervous system is going to help you with that. I love this comment. This is Charlie Brown, right? This is my depressed stance. Look at the posture, right? Actually, the physiology, right? How many people see people that just have poor posture, right? We see it all the time. And they've even got a smile on their face, but they're like this because there's some default patterning that's still going on there. So there's Charlie Brown. This is my depressed stance. When you're depressed, it makes a lot of difference how you stand. Because if the worst thing you do is straighten up and hold your head high, because then you start to feel better. And that, well, if you're going to get any joy out of being depressed, you've got to stand like this. Right? That's Charlie Brown, right? Yeah. So, you can use that stance if you want to go there. But here's another tool for you. If you notice that you're like that, just changing your posture will actually shift. That will also help to turn the stress switch off in the brain, too. Lots of ways to do it. And so, because being subluxated is going to also interfere with your ability to deal with emotional stresses, how important is it to keep your nervous system subluxation free? Very important. And I want to just show you an example of somebody as they went through a program of care. All right, so this is somebody that on June 1st, 2006, they came in for their first visit. Everybody can see all the color here, right? Almost their entire nervous system is showing stress and interference, right? So that was their first one. And they came in because they had tension and pain in their neck and anxiety. That was their concern. Anxiety was one of their major concerns, right? So that was the first one. That was in June, the beginning of June. This is the end of June. Is that better? Oh my goodness, that's a lot better, isn't it? Where is the place where we're still seeing stress in the nervous system? Upper cervical, the part that affects structures of the head, that affects your mood, your perspective of the world, right? That's the part right there. Anxiety lives in this area, yeah, all right? Upper cervical, right? So that was the end of June, so about a month later. This is, now we're talking September. Better. Some other little things showing up that might have been to do with present time stress, or maybe the old pattern's still kind of creeping in a little bit. But again, better in the upper cervical, it's still there, right? Then, that was in September. In December, she's got this scan where it went from red to green. Green is mild. Now, what also happened between September and December is I taught her a process called SRI, somatorespiratory integration. And it's from a book called The 12 Stages of Healing. It was created by Dr. Donald Epstein, who also created network spinal analysis, right? So this is a tool for working with your breath and your movement in your body and your thoughts, and having somatorespiratory integration of that, right? So she starts using this on her own, and we see, oh, really, it's starting to tone it down now, just some mild areas, okay? Then, now, August of the next year, she added in another thing called EFT, Emotional Freedom Technique, which is learning to tap on the endpoints of acupuncture meridians. Anybody here use EFT? Yeah, right on. So it's a fantastic process, and it can change things really fast. Like this is Dealing with Emotional Stress 101. EFT is the advanced course. And it's scheduled for in mid-October. We're going to do another class here, so you can come to that. Right? So she started to use that for herself. And look at, can you see that the upper cervical area actually is clear now? C1 and C2 are clear now, right? So what does that mean to her perspective of the world and the nerve interference for structures of the head and thinking and the brain and so on? Okay? And then I introduced her to Byron Katie's work. And she started to incorporate that as well. Byron Katie and the work. And here we are in August the next year. Wow, clear nervous system, right? This is someone that came in that was debilitated by their anxiety. And now they're ruling it, right? They are totally on top of it. It doesn't rule their lives anymore. How about that, right? And so what's really a lot of fun is that as they're coming in and telling me about the changes they're noticing in their life, that I get to actually see it in their physiology by the technology that we use here. So that's a great way for us to really look at, is your nervous system getting healthier or not? And the other thing that's very exciting is that I'll have times when people are coming in and they'll say, I don't want to do my scans today because I've had a stressful day. Right? And so they don't want to see red, John. Like, they don't want to see that they're in a stress response. And the best news is that we're still going to run the scans because I want to see what your nervous system is doing now with the stresses you have. And what do we see? When we see that they actually didn't create more tension in their system. And it tells us that they're actually managing their stresses more effectively. And that's when it gets really exciting, because the stresses out there are not going to go away, right? Everybody agrees on that. They're not going away, right? They're always going to be there. But it's our adaptability, it's our resilience that will determine whether it's going to affect our physiology or not. All right. This is a series of when we're going to be doing the future talks. You can always check out our website, belifeful.com, and go to the events calendar, and we'll tell you exactly when our next talks are. And we also do these talks in other places as well. So if you have a group that would like to have me come and talk about this topic or many others, just let me know. I'm happy to go out into the community. And I've already told you about one of these stories. The other one I'm going to tell you about is this story of the grumpy guy. So Dr. Donald Epstein tells this story, and it just impacted me so much when I heard it. He tells the story of a guy that comes into his office with back pain, right? And the guy happens to be a very grumpy guy, and so after a few visits, as he's coming in, he's still saying, yeah, I still got this back pain. Still got this back pain. It's not going away. Still got this back pain. Right? And after a while, the people in the office didn't want to come in when that guy was there. He was so grumpy. So people were specifically, is that guy going to be here? I don't want to be scheduled at the same time. Right? And so then that keeps coming in, right? And he actually starts to lighten up a bit. And his back pain's still there. But he starts to lighten up a bit. And next thing you know, he's telling jokes to people. And then he's doing magic tricks for the kids, you know. And before you know it, everybody wants to come in when that guy's coming in, right? So dramatic change, right? So then one day, the guy comes in, and he has his 10-year-old son with him. And so he says, still got this back pain. And so Dr. Epstein asks his son, what do you like best about your dad since he's been coming here? And the son says, well, he doesn't yell at me anymore, and he doesn't punch Mom anymore. Whoa, right? Tears are coming down everybody's face. And the guy, he just looks at Dr. Epstein, and he just says, I don't know how I could have done that, but I'm just not angry anymore. I just used to be so angry, but I'm just not angry anymore. He can't even fathom that he did it. So let me ask you something. What if his back pain had gone away in 3 visits? He'd probably still be punching his wife, right? Yeah. So there was a reason why that back pain didn't quite go away yet. There was some other healing that needed to occur. So I'm never going to judge the pace or the order that your body goes through the healing process. But if I see that the scans are changing, I know we're on the right track. And so adding more and more of these tools are what will just get you there faster in your process. The grumpy guy story. Loving what is, I told you that one. And then, one for one, very early on in my practice, when I was down in Massachusetts starting a practice, this woman came in, then she had had a car accident and neck pain, and she also experienced depression. And she got into care, she healed up, her neck was feeling great, and she kept coming in. Ended the accident case, right, but she kept coming in. And finally her husband said, how come you keep seeing Dr. Heather? And she said, I either pay Dr. Heather or I pay the shrink. For her, she found that her mood completely had changed. And as long as her nervous system was clear, her perspective of the world was in a more balanced state. So I'm not saying that I take the place of that. In fact, people that do work with therapists, what the therapists report is that when their nervous system gets clear, they get a lot more work done. They cover a lot more ground. More changes happen. Because, of course, the nervous system is more adaptable. And you can see more perspectives that way. So now that you have this information, how simple was it? Right? Pretty straightforward, right? No big secrets except understanding the physiology. And then what are you going to do with this information? So one thing I know is that when you learn something, if you teach it to other people, you learn it better yourself. So literally I'm going to ask you to take your notes, review them, and think of who am I going to teach this to? Because I'm telling you, the people out there, they need our help. And I'm not going to get to all of them. But what if you could actually just share these simple strategies with just a handful of other people? You could literally change the direction that their life is heading. So I'll challenge you to actually do that as part of your own practice of really getting this work, is for you to share it with other people. All right, now here is your official homework, right here. Does everybody have this last page open here? All right, so the top half of the homework is, it's a summary of all the different things that I talked about that you could possibly do to start incorporating for yourself. So your assignment is to choose the one easiest thing on here. If you're already doing it, you can't choose that. But the next thing that's the very easiest thing for you to do, you want to choose that thing. And then, once you've chosen that, some people say, I can do 2 of those. All right, go with 2. But really, I want you to do the easiest thing here. 1, maybe 2. Then, the bottom half of the page is equally as important. The bottom half of the page, you're going to write down the benefits you're going to gain from this action. So if you actually do what you say you're going to do, what are the benefits? Feel free to go back to your notes to say, oh, my blood pressure is going to go down, right? The stress hormones are going to go down. I'm going to be healthier in all different ways. Whatever captured your imagination and captured your attention during the class, write that down as the benefit that you're going to gain. Then write down the day you're going to start. Write down whatever action step needs to happen in order for you to start. So maybe you have to go out and buy the book, right? That's an action step. So put that down, get it in your calendar, get it in your to-do list so you actually get it done by the start date. And then your check-in or progress date, that's the date you're going to see, how am I doing here? It might be a week later, it might be a couple weeks later. And so the possibilities on that check-in date are either you're doing what you said you're going to do, and you're probably already noticing changes. Pretty much everybody that's given me feedback that actually incorporates this, within a week, they're telling me that they're noticing changes. So that's the one possibility, is that you're actually doing what you said. The other possibility is that you did it a few times, but not as much as you said you were going to do it. So then you just recognize it. This is my check-in. Oh, yeah. All right, I'm going to get back on track. And I got to actually write it in my calendar. I got to put a Post-it note there. I'm forgetting on certain days. I'm going to fix that. So recognize what's not working about it and fix it. The third possibility is you completely forgot. You said you were going to do it. The day came and went. You didn't even do it. You didn't start it. And all of a sudden, it's there in your calendar. Check on, oh, I completely forgot about that. Right? So if that happens, just get back on track again. But also reevaluate. Did you really choose the right thing? Because some people, they don't choose the easiest thing. They choose the hardest thing because they think they're going to really get it done. But really, the best thing to do is choose the easiest thing. All right? The last thing is to write down an accountability partner. That's somebody that you're going to tell them that you're going to do it, and then you're going to tell them that you did it. It is not their job to check up on you. Their job is only to be a witness. So you just tell them you're going to do it, and then tell them that you did it. It could be by email, it could be by phone, you could write them a letter, whatever it is, but you're just going to let them know. And here's what happens. Let's say that your plan was that you were going to get up a little bit early, and you're going to just sit quietly and do your body scan, right? And then the alarm clock goes off, right? We didn't change the name of that clock yet, so the alarm clock goes off, and you wake up like, oh, I'm just going to sleep a little bit more. And then you're almost going to press that snooze button, and you say, oh, wait, I told them I was going to do it. And then you'll actually get up and you'll do it. It is so important to have that accountability partner. I cannot undervalue it. So make sure you do all of those pieces. Then the last thing is you're going to take this page, you're going to put it where you're going to see it 6 weeks from now. And if you actually, 6 weeks from now, have done the thing you said you were going to do, it's now a habit. If you actually did it, it's now a habit. That means it's easy. That's just, you're the person that just does that now. Now you go and you look, what's the next thing I'm going to do? You choose that thing, you go through the same process, and can you imagine if the whole year, every 6 weeks, you're choosing the next thing, and then the next thing, and the next thing? What would it be like a year from now if you actually just incorporated those tiny little pieces, but in a consistent way? It'd be amazing, wouldn't it? So that's your homework. Everybody who's going to do their homework, hands up. All right, good, great. See that body movement? That gets it into your brain more, right? Okay, great. Any questions before we close our class? Excellent. Thank you very much for your time and attention, and I'm happy to stay after and talk to people privately as well if you want. Thank you.